Donald Trump just changed the world order far more than you may even imagine. So much so that even Vladimir Putin seems to be bowing to him. I kid you not, because Vladimir Putin has actually offered $1 billion to join Trump's peace board and seems to be abandoning his allies. Yes, he has seen Venezuela fall from his influence, out of his control. He's watching Cuba teeter totter, and there's nothing he can do about it. Donald Trump seized a Russian flagged oil tanker which was being escorted by a Russian submarine. And Donald Trump seized it anyway. And on top of that, Donald Trump has got Iran in its crosshairs and just made a big deal for Greenland to put Golden Dome assets in Greenland, which would make basically the defenses or offenses of Russia impotent against the United States in a nuclear strike. So Vladimir Putin sees the writing on the wall, but it goes deeper, and it goes deeper into things I've covered here. Because not only that, we had seen the American General Donahue a couple of months back talking about how fast he could take Leningrad. So we can take Leningrad fast as you can snap your fingers almost. I'm paraphrasing, of course. But he just said, hey, piece of cake, we can take it. Boom, just like that. And the Russians can't stop us unless they go nuclear. Well, it seems that Russia's options to go nuclear might be a bit testy, given the report I did on Masters of the Skies, which said the United States currently, presently, and the United States and its allies has the weapons to take out all the nuclear forces of all of our adversaries without firing a nuke, with conventional weapons that we already have available to us. Now, that's contingent on us doing a first strike. Because we launch nukes first, we're not going to get them all. But we could do take out more than they might imagine. So here we are in a whole new world. Putin's defenses and China's defenses in Venezuela didn't measure up so well. When we struck Iran the first time with the bombers taking out the nuclear sites, which didn't really have the centrifuges in them because there was no uranium hexafluoride evidenced in the area, which would have been making all the soldiers around and construction people do the funky chicken, which no other YouTubers ever mentioned. Nobody else in the media has mentioned, except yours truly right here. But that's why you come here, because I bring you the analysis like no one else. So here we go. What's all this about? Well, Donald Trump has made several sudden world-changing moves, basically playing his 4D, maybe now 6D chess in just the last 2 weeks. This year has seen enormous changes in the way the world operates. And you got to bet Vladimir Putin is all puckered up. He's a puckered Putin. And you can bet Xi Jinping is, it's kind of the same way. He's grimacing a bit, seeing what the United States has done. Now, what all this boils down to, though, is, I mentioned before, the United States just might take out Russia just to totally cut China off from their fuel. Well, they might do that anyway with a proper alliance with Russia. Maybe, maybe not. Trump says, hey, I don't mind people trading with China, but we don't want them in our hemisphere. That's what the Monroe Doctrine is really all about. They do not want adversarial powers being in our own hemisphere where they could choke us off right here at home. And so he's trying to roll this stuff back, at least to some degree. Not only that, but he has changed the world order in many ways by withdrawing us from so many agencies, international agencies and bodies and organizations of the United Nations and other similar international organizations. These international organizations lose a big chunk of their funding and their entire legitimacy without the United States playing ball with them is rather impotent, to put it mildly. So he has made major changes in how the world operates just in a couple of weeks, And all the rest of the world's leaders are stunned. Some of them, like Carney in Canada, well, he was spouting off a bunch of stuff, but I bet he too right now is going, what did I do? What did I say? As he's about to lose Alberta, possibly seceding from Canada and becoming maybe an independent country, which might actually join the United States. So there you go. A lot of stuff is shaking and quaking like we've never seen before. That doesn't mean that there's not risk. It doesn't mean that one misstep, we couldn't be in World War III with nukes flying. It doesn't mean that Iran, seeing themselves in the crosshairs the way they are, wouldn't activate sleeper cells, which and other things might not happen, which could bring us down here at home. So there's still threats. There's a lot of threats to be aware of. But things are changing, and they're changing fast. This is going to be a very interesting year to see how all this plays out. And then the icing on the cake, Zelensky is saying that, hey, we got a peace treaty coming along. And Putin might just go along with it now. So we're talking major changes. So I'm going to show you some articles to back this up. And I'm going to show you where I came forth with this, talking about the masters of the sky and my interpretation of what it meant geopolitically. I did that. I announced that before all this went down. Well, nobody else is really talking about it. It might have been a mention of the report, another channel or two, but nothing like what I put out. And now look, it may be coming true. Just maybe. Just maybe. It's interesting how I believe, did not Nostradamus talk about another world war in our time and mention how that peace would be achieved by the nations of the Arctic? Which, well, now the United States with Alaska and Greenland, you know, there's some Nordic nations got a little piece of the Arctic, mainly Norway and Finland, but still, you know, Russia has got the most of the Arctic right now. So that's kind of interesting. Now, I don't know, Nostradamus, you know, people, the way they interpret that stuff is, you know, they always go back and post, oh, yeah, he said this after the fact, you know, because you can interpret that stuff a million ways. So I'm not going to put a lot of credits on that. But anyway, just kind of an interesting point to poke. Just for fun. Don't put a lot of stock in it, my friends. But anyway, all that said, we're going to get into this. I'm going to show you the backup, you know, for what I'm talking about. We're going to share some articles here. Give me a second. Ding, 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 ding. And here we are. And this comes to us from no less than a United Kingdom rag, the paper. They're even saying this in Europe. They're beginning to see the light, like Mark Rutte, you know, the General Secretary of the NATO, who said, Trump's right. When it comes to Arctic defense, Trump is right. And just because Putin kisses the ring of Donald Trump doesn't mean that Trump is going to back down in his defense measures. Oh, no, because, you know, somebody else might take over in Russia. But, you know, we're seeing times are changing. How all those changes are going to play out remains to be seen. But times are changing, and they're changing lickety-split. So here we are. Putin is ready to abandon old allies to secure place in Trump's new world order. Now, this is where they met in Alaska. Looks like, from the looks of it, Putin looks like he's having to think twice about shaking Donald Trump's hand, but he does. And anyway, so this goes into the strikes that, you know, that Donald Trump has made and basically securing defense position in Greenland, not taking Greenland, not using force as all these people are scared. He is just securing the ability to defend the Western world, primarily the United States. But, you know, he's not really seizing Greenland. He's going to be able to operate militarily free hand in the region, apparently. And, of course, they go into the abduction of Nicolas Maduro and just how all of good old Pooty Poot's allies and buddies are falling from power. I mean, this is what they're talking about here. And Pooty Poot just didn't have nothing much he could do about it. So that's what we're seeing here. So, and that's what this is talking about. This article here is all over it. And it's stuff I've been talking about anyway. So this is an amazing development. I mentioned that that Putin was willing to pay to join the peace board, which will be chaired by Donald Trump as some kind of replacement organ for the UN, maybe. That's some of the things that's been alleged. So maybe we'll pull out of the United Nations. What good is the United Nations anymore? They're not really accomplished anything. So Putin says Russia could pay $1 billion from frozen assets, but frozen by Europe, for membership in Trump's Gaza Board of Peace. And now they're talking about making it more than a Gaza Board of Peace. They're talking about Board of Peace. So there you are. And then, furthermore, Trump launches Board of Peace in Davos, and Zelensky announces U.S.-Russia-Ukraine talks. Interesting how all this is playing out so fast. And remember, I brought this report to you, Masters of the Air, talking about the ability of the United States. You may not buy it, but you need to see this report because I did a YouTube video, and I posted the link to this report in that video so you can read it yourself. You don't have to buy off on it, but look, the fact that this is out, this is what's not classified. This is what's out in civilian thought space, and you can bet that Vladimir Putin's people saw this report. And, I don't know, maybe he just watches Green Gregs because he seemed to be taking attention. Maybe he's paying attention to me. Now, I really think that what they've done is they've looked in their analysis of what's happened worldwide. They've seen their air defenses be totally impotent against U.S. strikes in Iran and in Venezuela. And then they've watched these, seen these reports like this. Hey, we can take you out. They've heard Donahue say, Kaliningrad, piece of cake. So with that, their knees do quake. So, just to show you, I've been talking about this. I've talked about this some in reference in other videos some time back, but I decided to dedicate a series of videos to it. Greenland matters, talking about why Greenland made a strategic asset. And, I wasn't going into morality, what we take, don't take, or what. I'm just talking about why it has a value as a strategic asset from a military defense standpoint. And then I talked about this Masters of the Sky report here. And this was a big report. I went into it in a lot of detail, but you can read it for yourself. And then I said, hey, is this whole thing with Greenland just a deception? Maybe to launch the Masters of the Sky attack. Well, they made peace, so apparently wasn't we were going to feign a war, but it still may have been in somewhat of deception, between all the huffing between Europe and America, or maybe it wasn't, because, I think the Europeans get their pride hurt, and they want to boister and run around like a bunch of little banny roosters, bannies of the small breed, crowing to not much effect. But anyway, so that may be what it boiled down to. I mean, Europe could be a strong nation. They got collectively, the nations there got a bigger GDP than the United States. They've got more people. Yet we've been paying 70% of their defense. So, and the whole time they've been taking the freedoms away from their people while they hand out the candy of welfare, taking more and more freedoms and letting their cultures be totally diluted by immigration. So guys, and not just immigration, we're talking cultures that hate them. That's the sad thing. They're just bringing in cultures that totally hate their own way of life, won't assimilate. So there you are, my friends. So Europe is in big trouble. I hope, I got a lot of friends in Europe, and I got a lot of people from Europe watching my channel here. I just hope that they pay attention and try to get bums out of office over there that aren't serving the interest of the people. And that's what it boils down to, because the globalists have been bankrupt. And I think Donald Trump and now Rubio following him have went to the World Economic Forum to give them a good spanking. And so it's like, wake up, your days are over. And you know what? I think they're seeing the tea leaves. There's not much they can say about it now. Their big pipe dream of you shall own nothing, have no privacy, and eat the bugs seems to be running into the rocks, except for their foot soldiers, their brown shirts here in the United States that are running around in Minnesota maybe. But anyway, there you have it, my friends. This is the bottom line. The world is changing. It's changing fast. You need to come back here and look at my videos on Greenland Matters. You need to see this video on if you hadn't seen it, talking about China inciting attacks on our homeland. Yeah, so we got things to worry about here. It's not over. It's not a done deal. Um, Defeat of Russian and Chinese weapons with no nukes, and the Greenland deception. And I did a live session you might want to check out right here saying, well, Trump wins. And we're not even had to pay money to buy Greenland. How about that? What a art of the deal. What an art of the deal. Oh, I don't know what this thing's done. It's time to stop the share. So there you are. Times are changing. There's still a lot of risk. Things could go bad fast. Xi Jinping may not be happy at all. He may lash out. The dragon may bite, kick, and scratch. And they got a lot of military-age young men that slipped across our borders during the previous POTUS, President Taterhead's reign. And so there are risks here. There are Iranian sleeper cells here, which might get activated if they think the regime is legitimately about to fall. If they do, it could get real ugly right here at home. And it's already getting ugly in places. We got a lot of consternation up there in Minneapolis area and other areas in Minnesota. Lots of consternation. That can spread and turn ugly in a hurry. So there you are, my friends. There's still all the reason why to keep your eyes wide open and head on a swivel to prep and pray and hope for a better day. But, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel now. Let's just hope it's not a train. Well, it could be, but it's looking kind of hopeful, at least for a little bit. Things can change dramatically at, the beginning of 2027. If Trump loses the Congress, they'll probably impeach him. And, and good Lord, they want to impeach him and Vance. So things could change in a hurry. Just saying. So that's something we all got to watch out about. So don't let it rest on your laurels. We got a lot of changes, a lot of interesting times, and I'll keep bringing you the news. But I want to bring this to you so you would understand what we're looking at, so you would understand that the world is in a brand new place. Thank you for watching. I want everyone to subscribe, bang the bell, and click all. And I'll link a video right here. And with that, I'm going to say, Greg out.